Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Pancho Show. I'm your host, Francisco Lopez, also known as Pancho. So, I want to share with you guys a really cool story today. If you haven't listened to my other podcast episode talking about the time where my landlord kind of helped me out and took a really big risk on me and let me rent a place without even having a job, I highly recommend you go check that one out. The story that I'm going to tell you is about me taking a risk with somebody else. Now, this happened prior to the other story. However, what I did isn't even remotely close to what this other guy did for me. However, it proves the point, and hopefully by listening to the story, you feel inspired to help other people out whenever you get an opportunity to do so. So back in around 2006, 2005, 2006, I was assistant sales manager for a Mitsubishi dealership. So I was selling cars, and I was doing pretty good for myself, and I had a cool team, and the team was doing pretty good. We had a few sales going on, and everything was fine and dandy, nothing crazy, but it was all okay. It was comfortable, and it was good. And during that period of time, I had a very solid, stable sales team, which is very weird in the auto industry. Most of the time in the auto industry, there's a lot of it's an open door. People come in and out all the time. But I had a pretty solid team. There was only one position that kept on kind of changing every so often, and for that one position, I was always of the mindset of, you know what, I'm going to give anybody an opportunity. If somebody comes in, I never really knew who was going to be good. There was people that I hired that would come in all suited up, look sharp, said all the right words, said all the right things. And in reality, what ended up happening is maybe they sucked, or they weren't really that good of a salesperson, or they really didn't have a strong work ethic. And other times, you would hire people that you really didn't really feel that comfortable with, but they succeeded and they did well. Well, there was this one particular time. And this was a super cool story because when I tell the story, people don't believe me. It's like, bullshit, you're lying. But I swear it's true. And you can call me out on it. I'll send me a message. I'll tell you the name. I'll even send you the phone number to that person so that you can call and verify the story, because it's actually a pretty cool story and it's kind of weird. So I'm working on my shift, and all of a sudden this guy, probably in his late 50s, older gentleman, he comes in and he says he's looking for a job, right? And I said, well, here's a job application. Please fill it out. Let me know. I'll review it and I'll let you know what we think. So he fills up a job application, and this guy, he was from Chile, and he had just gotten here, and he was in a very bad slump in his life. In Chile, he was a business owner, an entrepreneur. He had hotels. Prior to that, he had lived in Texas, and he had owned moving companies, and he was very successful. And at this point, in his 50s, everything had been lost. His hotels had gone under. His business, other investments had gone sour. He was here literally trying to support his entire family, which at the time most of them were minors, and trying to really reestablish himself in the U.S. without having any money, and like I said, in his 50s, so it was kind of rough. So when he shows me the application, there's no job history really. It was all self-employed and in Chile for the last maybe 10 years or so. So there wasn't anything that you could say, oh, there's work experience or there's any sales background. So there wasn't a sales background, there wasn't any work experience, and legally, you're not supposed to look at somebody and make a determination based on age, gender, religious background, or things of that nature. However, when you meet people, there's a lot of people that do take that into consideration, whether they admit it or not. There's a lot of people that really say, you know what, that person's too old. Maybe they don't have the energy. And sure enough, I take the application, I talked to him, and I liked the guy. He seemed very smart to me, and I said, you know what, let me review it with the other manager, and I'll shoot it, and I'll let you know later on tonight. And he says, okay, thank you so much, and he leaves. So I go to the manager, and I give him the application, and I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to hire this guy. I like him. And he's like, are you kidding me, he says? This job is a rough job, and it's the middle of summer. He's going to die out there, he said. And that was really fucked up at the time. But at the same time, I was like, man, that's kind of messed up. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a rough job, but he really wants it and needs this job. So he's like, look, you know what? It's your team, Pancho. You're the one in charge of hiring and firing. You're the one that's going to be in charge of training him. So it's your call. If you want to hire him, hire him. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to hire him. So I go to the phone, I pick it up, and I call, and his daughter picks up, and I tell him, hey, you know what? Your dad just left, and I want to talk to him because I want to see him again and see if we can offer him a job. And she's like, okay, he's going to be very excited or whatever. Thank you so much. Boom. So instead of calling me back, he literally just showed back up to the dealership. He just showed back up. And I'm like, hey, how are you? So welcome back. I'm glad you came back. So I was talking over with the other manager or whatever. And you know what? We're going to give you an opportunity. I said, we're going to give you a job. This is what you're going to need to do to get your sales license from the DMV. You're going to need these forms or whatever. When can you start? He's like, I can start tomorrow. I'm like, fantastic. So here's the forms. You're going to have to go to the DMV and this and that. He says, okay, great. Thank you so much. And he stands up, and I'm like, congratulations. Welcome aboard. And I shake his hand. And I kid you not, there was an earthquake, right? So the whole building starts shaking, and the window starts going, and I'm like, oh shit, you freak out. There's an earthquake, you kind of freak out. And he starts laughing. And I'm like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Who did I hire? Why is he laughing that there's an earthquake? And he literally was like, his eyes were just wide open. And he's looking at me and he's all, you're not going to believe this. I said, what? He says, all of my friends, my entire life, have always told me that the day I work for somebody else, the world was going to shake. I'm telling you, you can verify this. And because it's kind of a hard to believe story, but it was the coolest thing ever. I'm like, wow, that's pretty neat, I'm like, all right, well, welcome aboard. And hopefully this doesn't last too long for you, I said. Because knowing how my dad was, for example, I kind of saw my dad in him, I think. My dad was an entrepreneur, always a business owner, never works for somebody else. Having him at his older age, which he wasn't really that old, but having to look for a job to support his family at that time in life, that's rough. It's not fucking something easy to do. But here's the coolest thing that happened. And this guy, he was the oldest guy in the team, right? He showed up every day earlier than anybody else and left after everybody else. And the idea to get clients was to cover the lot a lot of times. Like he called us pájaros en el alambre, birds on a wire. He's like, we look like birds on a wire just standing out there in the sun, just sitting there looking and waiting for customers. He would stand there in the sun to the point that his hands literally were peeling from the sunburns, from standing out in the sun every single day. But guess what? He was number one in sales every single month he was there. He outproduced everybody. He sold more cars than anybody else. He worked harder than anybody else. He was hungry. And he had a vision and an idea in mind. Less than a year after he started working there and producing, he calls me up and he says, hey, I want to talk to you. And I'm like, cool, what's going on? So we go inside the showroom. We sit down in one of the booths and he says, I'm quitting. And I'm like, okay, what are you going to do? Like, is everything okay? Or is there anything that I can do to support you? He's all, I did what I had to do. He's like, I've saved up enough money. I got my certification as a tax preparer, and I just rented out an office, and I'm gonna be doing tax preparation. I'm gonna be working for myself again. I was so freaking proud of this guy. It's an unbelievable story of a bounce back and of somebody that just will do whatever it takes to succeed and support his family. It was the coolest thing ever. It really taught me a ton. One of the best people I've ever met. And he goes and he started off this little hole-in-the-wall tax preparation office. This would have happened in 2006 or so, right around there. That business has expanded like you have no idea. It is a thriving business. He's semi-retired, works at it very minimal. His daughter kind of took over. She's the one that runs all the operations there. They're doing amazing as a family for themselves and as business owners. It's the coolest thing ever. He couldn't have done it if we wouldn't have taken a risk at giving him an opportunity to prove himself to himself and to his family, and to make whatever needed to happen, right? So he did it all. We just gave him a little bit of an opportunity. So just like the other story that I shared with you on the other podcast, and like this one, I invite you to be nice and help others. You never know when the right person is going to take full advantage of that and be super awesome. After that happened, like I said, we worked together maybe a year. We're still super close friends. He's one of the dearest people to my heart. He's somebody that I really appreciate in my life. And I'll tell you what, years later, when I was down on my luck, when I was struggling, and I was looking to open up a restaurant with no money in my bank account, one of the people that I talked about in my other podcast that helped me out was him. He literally said, "What do you need?" I said, "You know what? I'm short about $3,500. The next day it was in my bank account. He went and deposited it right away. No questions asked. I was the one that told him, "I'll give it to you back to you in 90 days. He's like, "Don't worry." I paid it back within 90 days, like I said. But he didn't even ask me what it was for, what I was going to do to pay him back, how I was going to, nothing. He just had the faith, and we're friends. And I think he knew that it was something that he's able to do because I kind of helped him out. Things like this always come back to you. Always find a way. Heck, now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, maybe even that little thing that I did at that point has allowed me to meet other people that have helped me out like that in my life. You know, it's just something that, call it the universe, call it God, call it whatever you want to call it. Shit happens. It's real. I'm telling you, it's freaking real. So, again, I invite you to be nice, to help out others, have faith in people. Understand that if they're in a bad place, it's not because they're bad. They might just be down on their luck. And having that one person open up a door and giving them an opportunity might be everything they need to just elevate themselves to a whole other level. All right. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the story. It's one of my favorite stories, especially the part of the earthquake when he started working there. I think is really cool. And I swear to you, it's a true story. So if you like this story and you saw something of value in it, please like, comment, share. Share the story with others so that they can hear it too. Maybe it inspires them to help out other people. Or maybe they're down in a slump and they open up and understand that it is possible to bump into somebody that might give them that helping hand. Alrighty? So thank you so very much for watching. As always, I love you very much, and I hope you have a fantastic day.